Hello and welcome to another episode of Views from the Hill. I'm Jake Lang.
And I'm Brooke Wood, and today we have Class of 2002's very own Coach O'Hara.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you for joining us, Coach.
Good to be here.
Now first, before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and your roles here at Cathedral.
Here at Cathedral, I teach AP and IB psychology, and I'm the head track and field coach for both the boys and the girls. Also involved with the Alliance Club and help out with retreats, and just, a smattering of other things depending on the day.
How long have you taught here?
I'm wrapping up my 8th year here at Cathedral, and in 2 different stints. I was here for 2 years from 2011 to 2013, and then moved away, and then been back for the past 6 years.
So did you grow up around Cathedral? Wasn't your dad the coach here?
Yeah, my dad started coaching and teaching here back in the early 80s. So, as a kid, I used to come here all the time. My dad drove one of the East Side vans. He picked up kids from the Irvington area, brought them to school, like a 12-passenger van. That was one of the former systems. Instead of like the little buses, we had these big vans. And it was parked outside of our house in Irvington all the time. So, I would be hanging around here at football practices and things like that. Our own Derek Brownlow, Scott Menser, former players that I used to hang out with in the locker room. My dad has an old picture of me when I was about, 2 or 3 years old, sitting on Coach Brownlow's lap when he was like a senior in high school. So yeah, I've been around here all my life, and my dad taught here and coached here up until the mid-90s, and then went away to Hamilton Southeastern for a little bit, and then came back in the early 2000s, or the late 90s to the early 2000s. So always been around. So it's a special place in our family.
How do you think it's changed since you went to high school here?
Obviously the aesthetics change. There's new buildings, there's new teachers, but one thing that hasn't changed is the type of people that come here. The type of people that want to work here, the type of people that want to be a part of this place is those with passion to change lives and be a part of that change. And I think the students that come here and get admitted here are in that realm also, that they want to do good things, they want to do bigger things, and they want to keep advancing. Obviously, I think we get kids from more areas now than we used to. I think we're way more diverse now than we were before with our student body and our teaching faculty and staff. Obviously, things change in the regards to newer things. The WAC was just built when I was entering school here. Obviously, the new changes that are going on, the turf field and things like that. But the way this place grows and changes and molds for the betterment of the student is probably one of its greatest attributes, that they don't stay in the past as much as they can. They try to kind of move forward and progress, which I think is a great thing.
Where did they play basketball games before they had the WAC?
So I know the MIMS has always been here, I think since day one. I think they used to play varsity basketball games in there. I'm not really sure. I don't remember. A lot of games I think were played also at Arlington, because they have a huge gym, beautiful gym over there. I know our Irish 500 senior year was even in the MIMS. You loaded up almost 1,000 kids inside the MIMS for the Irish 500. It was pretty raucous. That was mainly because the WAC was brand new, and basketball coaches, volleyball coaches didn't want some tricycles on there, and it was a heck of a time. It was a lot of fun.
Were you in the Irish 500?
I was. Not a winner.
Me either.
Not a winner. Coach Adajay, he was in the Irish 500. He was built for the Irish 500. There's certain athletes that are built for it.
What's the build?
Morris Kimball. Morris Kimball was a perfect Irish 500 guy.
What's the build, Coach?
Power, strength, and being able to stay on the trike. If you're too long, you're not going to see Xavier Booker on the trike. I don't think. He's a little long for it. So it was definitely let's find the best team possible, and then another smattering of teams.
Mm-hmm. I remember Tommy when he did it. He put one leg up on it and he was scooting.
Yeah, he cheated.
It was cheating.
Yeah, that's cheating.
Mm-hmm.
You have to stay seated.
Yes.
But let's not put it past Tommy to find a way to get to the finish line.
Yeah, he cheats all the time.
Oh, boy,
We were just lucky we didn't get to see him do it senior year. He would have pulled out something else.
It would have been nice.
Might have brought out a motor or something.
It would have been nice. That's one tradition that has stayed almost the exact same for the last 30 some odd years that they've been doing that. It's a fun one, even though it will be a little bit different this year outside. But at least we get to have it.
Mm-hmm. What about more as a coach here? What have you done to help this program? What do you aspire to do?
Yeah, when I was coaching football, I think a lot of what Coach Strife, my dad and Coach Peebles have been able to do over the last 20, 25 years has it been a staple of this school, and coupled that with all the other programs that have had so much success, and we can list almost all of them. And I kind of learned a little bit of those nuances from the football program and kind of try to push them into the track and field program, that we knew we needed to have strength in numbers. You need to build your roster. And Coach Adejay and I, being former runners here, we remember when the rosters were large, over 100 kids running track between the boys and the girls. And then, right around 2010, 2011, when we made kind of a comeback to Cathedral, we noticed the rosters were really small. And we're like, well, this shouldn't be the case. We understand that we have limitations with our facilities, and there's so many spring sports. We have more athletes in spring sports than any other season. But we knew we could build it. We knew we can get the boys' numbers up to that 60, 70, 80 range. And we knew we can get that girls' number up to the 40 to 50 range and get over 100 athletes. So trying to get more kids involved was the number one thing, because the more student athletes are involved, the more they have something to look forward to, something they have to commit to, and that's an important thing for somebody who's 14 to 18 years old. And then with that comes some success, having city championships, sectional championships, regionals, and state championships and finalists. It's been a great ride over the last 7-8 years. To see so many school records go down and top 10 performances and win so many titles and medals. And that's due to the hard work of the athletes and the hard work of the coaches.
So when you left in 2013,
yeah,
2011,
mm-hmm.
Where'd you go?
My wife was switching careers, so we moved from Chicago back to Indianapolis so she can go back to school. And then when she was applying to grad school, we found Charleston, South Carolina. So we moved down there. And we were down there for a few years. I was teaching at a big public school, kind of like a Lawrence North type of school. That's the kind of the vibe I felt. I was the quarterback's coach for the varsity team, and we had some good success. And the head coach for the boys track team, and it was a great experience. A totally different place than Chicago and Indianapolis was Charleston, South Carolina. Learning how to eat grits and say y'all, text y'all. You gotta fit into the mode, you kind of mold into those areas that you're in. But it was an awesome experience. I mean, we didn't know anybody going down there. It kind of took a little bit of a risk, my wife and I, and we left it with, awesome friends. She's actually heading down there on Thursday to go see her friends again. So it's a place that's always going to be important to us. But we knew once we wanted to start a family and settle down, we were going to come back to Indy.
So take me through that experience. So you moved back. Was your first thought process just to go right back to Cathedral?
No, I had a few interviews at some different schools, and it wasn't just like a slam dunk that I was just going to come back to Cathedral. There were a few other schools I was looking at that had coaching positions open and some teaching positions open that I was looking into, and I was like, well, maybe I'll just kind of step outside the box and try something a little bit different. When I started doing the pros and cons list and this, that, and the other, it just seemed like it was going to be the right fit again to come back to Cathedral and continue what we kind of started, a few years ago. And I'm extremely happy to make that decision. My girls go to school here now at Irish Blessings Daycare and Preschool, so it all worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you go to college?
Went to IU. Yeah, it wasn't like the easiest decision right away, I was looking at some other small schools to play football and run track, and then potentially walk on with the IU track team. Didn't end up doing that, but went to IU, studied secondary education, met my wife there, who's a Chittard grad. So that's okay. We get through it. All right, we battle through that. But what's kind of funny is her cousins I went to school with at Holy Spirit on the east side, so I know them well. Yeah, IU was a great experience. My older sister went there, my younger sister went there. That's where I got my vaccines. It's got a special place.
So how'd you get into psychology?
So anytime you go to any type of undergrad program, you're going to have to take like psych and social courses. So freshman year, Psych 101, Psych 102, I was like, all right, this is interesting stuff. And I really thought I was going to move into the track of like sociology and things like that. I was like, well, maybe I'll do this as a career. And, it turned out, I started thinking about, education, utilizing what I learned in history, geography, sociology, psychology, use that to get a teaching license and become a teacher. Because I didn't really know freshman year that was going to be my thing. I took some business classes, took some other stuff. And once sophomore year hit, and I was like, all right, this is where I'm going to do. And found some cool programs at IU, and I like the everybody's story is different, and that's what's great about psychology. You have these labels and you have these ideas and laws and theories about psych, but at the same time, everybody's got a little bit of different story, and it's always changing. That's the beauty of that subject.
What do you think the relationship is between football and track? Like, why are you so drawn to both of them?
Yeah, doing a lot of research over the last 4 or 5 years and just hearing from other coaches around the country and some other programs that they're both explosive sports. You have to be able to get off the ball, you have to be able to run routes, you have to be able to block and throw, and all these different things. So when you look at a track team, it's very similar to a football team where you have all different styles of athletes. You have people who can jump and run, you have people who can block, then they're the ones that throw, you have people that can are speedsters. It really is a beautiful thing. That's one thing I always loved about football is you have every style of athlete. And it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. And track's the same way. Track does not discriminate, when it comes to what type of athlete you have to look like. Sometimes you think of like, oh, he's a swimmer, and you watch the Olympics this summer. All the swimmers kind of look the same, but not when it comes to track and football, and that's the beauty of that. I love it.
My cousin Wyatt said he would have done so much better here, like in football and lacrosse and everything, if he would have focused on distance and ran track and stuff. So.
Yeah, Wyatt was, I taught Wyatt, and Wyatt was an amazing athlete. Football, he could, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman style of player where he was in the slot and he could always get open. And then his lacrosse skills, he was so quick and shifty. But yeah, there's no downside to doing track and field. You're going to get what you want out of it as long as you put what you put into it. If you want to become more explosive and dunk a basketball for basketball season, then go do high jump. If you want to get faster and run a go route, run the 100. So I completely agree with Wyatt. It's tough that lacrosse and track are in the same season, and that's some of the battles that we fight. Is there's so many spring sports, but it's a good thing that we have so many kids involved in spring sports.
Yeah, whenever I'm at a different meet, like say we're running against Ben Davis, I think Ben Davis pretty much boys play run track, or they play baseball, right? Cathedral, we have track, baseball, rugby, lacrosse, volleyball. So there's just a lot more variety here, and we're a 1,000-kid school at the same time.
1,000 kids, so you're looking at 500 to 600 boys, and every spring sport has success. Whether it's a girl sport or a boy sport, the spring sports dominate. They dominate in their own fields, and they have for the last 10 to 15 years, and it's been kind of an incredible thing to see that we're crowning champions almost every single spring, and that's a great thing to have for the overall dynamics of the school.
Yeah, I actually started running track, I want to talk about my experience of how I got into this.
Absolutely.
So, CYO, I didn't really ever think about it. It wasn't a big thing at St. Luke to run track. We might have one long distance kid, a few here and there. You just didn't even really hear about it. But Mr. Sanders told my mom that I should run hurdles when I come into high school, so I was like, why not? So Luke Sanders was a really good hurdler here for 2 years, broke the 300 school record.
Yep.
And then he went on to play Western Michigan. He's now graduated. But so I just came in freshman year, a little freshy, and picked up on it. And luckily, I had a great team around me with Colin Odell and David Havens and Bella Leos and Naya Conway. And
Right.
It's just
Yeah, the hurdle group historically has been like one person.
Yeah.
Typically one person, and we just find some time. And I wanted to grow this group. I mean, we're not big, we're small but mighty. But yeah, usually trying to get hurdlers out when it comes to boys, I like football players because they can handle banging into the hurdles, they can handle the technique and stuff like that. A guy like Colin who had never hurdled, or or even Luke, eventually we can get him into that realm and, state finalists for those two guys, and then you're well on your way.
hopefully.
And then, when it comes to girl hurdlers, it is, you look for a certain athlete who's not afraid, So, Bella and Naya did an amazing job. Sarah Prezo as well. I mean, these girls did phenomenal things. Gretchen Reeves and they buy into the system. And now with Reese and Nicole and Maya, you find people who are not afraid to attack because it's the only way to do the event. You guys watch the Olympics this summer and the Olympic trials. It's unbelievable. It's almost like the hurdles aren't even there. They just know how to attack, and it's a great skill to learn for any future football player also.
Yeah, for me, I did it because it would translate to football. I'm not running track in college, but I'm still running track right now because I know it's going to help me. It translates that power, that technique, and the hip flexibility you gain. We stretch every time after practice.
Exactly. One of the big things, the selling points is still talking with Luke and Luke Sanders and Pete Werner. With trying to keep building the program is. When they went into their June workouts after the state finals, I mean, they were the most in shape guys, and they felt ready. And Luke and Pete talk about the flexibility and the hip mobility, because the hips are such an important part of an athlete to be able to go side to side and forward. You don't think about it. You think about all the other major muscles and all the other stuff that you do, but the hips are so vital.
Yeah, I mean, I really focused on flexibility from freshman year to this year. There's, if you watch my hurdle videos, that's the biggest thing you'll notice is my leg goes from a 45-degree angle to like an 85.
Oh yeah, yeah. You were a little tight. Let's say that. And Odell was the same way. And Odell bought into he lifted a ton of weights, and he worked really, really, really hard, and ended up being the state finals for us, which has been a successful event for us. The 300 hurdles over the last 10 to 12 years, we've had a lot of them. And it doesn't just happen. You don't just show up to hurdle practice and hurdle and it's just going to work. The weight room has probably been the number one thing for our athletes to get from one level to another. Whether they want to just be JV to varsity, or they want to be all city to all state, or an all state to a state champion. The weight room with Coach Johnson has been paramount for every single athlete in the school.
Yeah, and that program's grown as well with the new facilities that we have up there, and just it from my freshman year too. That we had those 3 stations. It was a little bit more thrown together. Not everything was the same, and then now everything's kind of streamlined.
Right.
They do a lot more.
Yeah, you're not supposed to complain about your facilities too much and like what you have, but what we did have was not predicated on what we could and should have here at Cathedral. I mean, there was a time when the weight room was in the football locker room. The football locker room did not look like what it is now. The football locker room looked like one of those closets in the football locker room, with pipes and crappy floor. And when the football season was over, we took every locker and put them on a truck, and then they stored them somewhere, and then we put every bench and every squat rack and every plate down into the locker room under Loretto, and that was our weight room. Yeah, I mean, that was it. I mean, that was the weight room, and it was archaic, it was weird, and then Once August came around, we had to take all the weights out and bring all the lockers back in. Hopefully nobody got like a cut and had to get a tetanus shot.
Oh my gosh.
And then the wrestling room back here, that was a weight room over the summer sometime because something was wrong with the air conditioning, or I don't know what happened. And so they opened up the garage doors and people were just lifting weights in the wrestling room. Because the wrestling room used to be B basement, and also they would use the cafeteria. You know, it was all over the place. The original wrestling room was B basement, which is RIP, no longer existent.
We miss it.
But hopefully, you know, the weight room, you know, can even move into another new location, and we can expand it even more, and you know, get Mr. Hunker a larger athletic training stuff, and just keep growing and growing.
How would you compare our class of seniors to your class here at Cathedral?
That's a good question. You know, one of the things that I have admired the most about this group, and you know, every senior class, it doesn't matter what class it is, everybody's gonna have their cliques and their groups and stuff like that. But I feel like I've seen a lot more transitional behavior in your friendships, that you guys talk with everybody. You mold a little bit more than I have seen in other previous classes. You know, it's hard to remember 19, 20 years ago when I was a senior, but you know, that's one of the things that you can always rely upon. You know, it's like, if you see each other 5 years from now, 10 years, 20 years from now, you're always going to have that connection that you guys were, this class of 2021, going through something that no other senior class has gone through the whole year. Yes, 2020 ended on a very, very tough realm, but just having that connectivity and being able to enjoy each other's company. Our class wasn't too much smaller than yours, probably around 230 to 240. So having a smaller, tight-knit group makes a lot of difference. And I think going through what you guys have gone through and trying to figure out how to have prom, how to have my senior season, how to have the plays, how to have show choir, all these things took a lot more work and effort, and especially on your part. And I think it's very commendable to see that.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, obviously, it was the administration that made it possible too. I mean, they gave us the go ahead, and we just had to ourselves. You know, that's kind of the big thing. You know, if they give the students a lot of the power to figure stuff out, and to, you know, they're not chaining us to a wall, and we made the right decisions, and that's why we're here now.
Yeah, I love seeing a lot of the students in the building. You know, I know a lot of students were out and have been out for a while, and you know, being safe, and then some of them have returned, and I've seen just like a great new attitude on some of them after they've returned to school, and just being around with everybody in a safe manner. And you're right, you know, the administration, the teachers, the coaches, the leaders, the directors put together these game plans for you students, and you guys go out and you execute it. It's been awesome. It's been there's been bumps in the road, clearly, but you just keep battling through it and finding a way to get there.
What are some of your favorite memories when you were a student here?
Ooh, you know, it might make you guys mad, but I feel like I remember every assembly, you know. And I feel bad you guys don't have like these major senior assemblies like homecoming and Winterfest and stuff like that, and they've done a good job of having that. You know, maybe the teachers won't like hearing this, like Mr. Rhodes or Mrs. Ford or something like that. But it's not like I remember my math tests and my history exams and stuff like that. But you know, my favorite memories here, you know, a lot of it is competing in football and track. You know, when we went all the way to semi-state my senior year and had a pretty improbable run. We were kind of a underdog misfit group my senior class. The class ahead of us had, you know, the Mr. Footballs and the D1s and the NFL guys, but we were the senior class that was not. So that was an amazing experience. And I think just kind of the camaraderie of being with each other in the building and going through all these different assemblies and having all these different fun events is one of the greatest things that we have here. You know, senior retreat probably was the capstone on everything, and going to state and track and field, kind of a culmination that second semester senior year was some of the brightest points. And you know, I'll never forget senior retreat. I think that was probably a huge point in my life, you know, that really had a high impact on me.
Is there anything else?
No, thank you guys. This is cool. You know, I like listening to these. I was telling you the other day, I was listening to Mrs. Jamel's on the Hill. She was one of my Spanish teachers. I think I had like 5 Spanish teachers in 2 years. There's some background stories there, but no, you guys have done a great job this year and continue going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you're listening to this, please share it. We love for more listeners.
Hit the share button.
Mm-hmm. With that, I'm Jake Langdon.
And I'm Brooke Wood.
And that was another great episode of Views from the Hill. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.